It is now my pleasure to welcome our main speaker, all the way from El Rio, Manny V.
My name's Manny Vaca. I'm an alcoholic. First, I want to say that when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had two things going against me. One of them was Mexicanism. The other was alcoholism. I recovered from both. The macho and the pride were killing me, and the alcoholic behavior was killing me too. And it was affecting those around me. I am not AA. I am just a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Many speakers have come in this podium. They've been lawyers and doctors and therapists and psychologists and people a lot smarter than me. I'm just a gardener. That's my specialty. And I am only here to share my opinion, strength, and hope. And most of my story is going to be true. My sobriety date is January 30th of 1998. And it's no thanks to me, it's thanks to the love of the members of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because when I came in, something happened. I'm going to give you a little bit about my background. I was born in Mexico. I was born very Mexican. That's what happens when you're born down there. We were also very poor. And when I was 8 years old, my dad moved away. And something happened when that happened, when he was gone. And it rocked my world, and I knew that me and God parted ways, because I knew at that point that God did not have my best interest. I was raised Catholic. I went through all the first communion, baptism, and all that, because that was required by my parents and the family, and it didn't mean that much to me. I didn't really believe in God. I wasn't attuned like they were. I was just doing the motions. And a couple years after he moved away, he emigrated us to the United States, and I instantly fell in love with the country. I wanted to be white like you. I knew that this was a great place. It was clean. Everybody seemed happier, and it was just a different place. And I'm not saying that just because I was born with Mexicanism, that does not necessarily make me an alcoholic. What makes me an alcoholic is once I take a drink, I don't know where it's going to end. According to the doctor's opinion, an alcoholic is someone who drinks in spite of not wanting to drink. But I didn't know this. I just knew that life was hard, so I had to drink. It was bad. It was always going to be bad. So the best I can do is have one more MGD. And I was told that something that's cold filtered cannot be bad for me. Incidentally, I saw a billboard the other day. It said, beer, a particular kind of beer. I can't remember the brand, but it said, made for a purpose. And that's the kind of beer that I drank. But it's some kind of organic beer. And I saw a semi that said, organic vodka, the healthy alternative. Not for me. There's nothing healthy about liquor for me. Because if I take a drink, then I don't know where it's going to end. And so we moved up here, and I struggled through a little bit with my behavior with my dad. I didn't really like him. It was a hard life, a hard existence, and the rest of the family members didn't seem to be attuned to that. In fact, nobody knew that. Everybody just did their own thing, and nobody knew that I hated my dad and he hated me back, and this went on for a long time, and then one day I discovered the magic of alcohol. I don't know when that was, but somewhere along the line I discovered the magic of alcohol, and alcohol did for me what it doesn't do for 90% of the people in this world. When they drink, they feel it, they want to stop because they get out of control, they get woozy, they get dizzy, they get crazy, they get all the fun stuff, and they want to stop. And when I drink, I don't want to stop. I'm the kind of guy that Sunday night, driving with my friends, I make a suggestion, let's go to TJ, and there'll be one of two people in the car that'll say, but I gotta go work tomorrow morning, so get out. Because when I'm drunk, a lot of stuff seems fun, and it is for a little while. And then eventually something happened that alcohol was doing more to me than for me. And that's what my story is really all about. If you're new or fairly new, or if you're struggling, I want to tell you that we have the solution to whatever it is that makes you uncomfortable enough to have to drink. You can find it here. That's my experience. Because if you're an alcoholic, alcohol probably isn't your problem. But do not misquote me. We discourage drinking in AA. But it works a lot better without drinking. But if you're an alcoholic like me, you got stuff that's gone unresolved, and you don't know how to resolve it, and you don't think it's ever going to go away, and you don't think there's ever a solution, so you drink. And once I drink, it doesn't matter. Not that it's been going to get good. It's just good instantly for a little instant, and it doesn't matter, and that's good enough. Unfortunately for me, I will be drinking tomorrow about the problems that my drinking caused me today. But I live one day at a time when I'm drinking, so it doesn't matter. And so tomorrow I'll be in more shame, more fear, more embarrassment, and I'll wonder what in the world's going on. And I don't know. I don't know. Because I don't even think I'm alcoholic. I got a DUI, and it was pretty embarrassing. They put the bottle on top of your car, and your friends go by and they honk at you and they wave at you. It's like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time with a nosy cop behind you. And a normal drinker will reevaluate their drinking and driving habits when that happens, and not me. I got a couple more DUIs. I got, second DUI, it was not as hard. The third DUI is fairly easy, and the fourth DUI, I had it down pat. It happened down in San Bernardino County. By then, I had been drinking, driving almost 7 years. And it's really, really stressful to drink and drive, and you know it's coming. So I was working down there. I was re-landscaping a condo complex down there, and I was feeling lucky. So I thought I'd make my way down to the casino. And I stopped at the 7-Eleven before I got on the freeway. And I was going to get a six-pack. and 12 packs were on sale. So more than an alcoholic, I'm a smart shopper. And I got a 12-pack, and it really doesn't matter if I buy 6 or 12, I'm going to finish them all. And I got on the freeway, and pretty soon the whole inside of my truck lit up with the red and blue lights. And I got pulled over, and I thought, thank God. Thank God we got this DUI out of the way. Because once we get it out of the way, then we're good for a few months. That's probably not normal thinking. And the next thing I remember is I'm walking hand in hand with a CHP officer down a hallway, and I asked him where we were going. I didn't remember anything before that, and that was a little bit concerning to me. And he said, we're going to get some blood drawn, and I told him, no, we're not, because I'm deathly afraid of needles. And he said, you just agreed to it, and I corrected him. I would never do that. And he got upset at me. So I thought that was a good time to bring his family into the conversation. And he didn't like that either. And he started cussing at me, and I told him, you cuss at me one more time and I'm not going to talk to you. And he said, just take the damn test. And I said, end of conversation. And he threw me in the drunk tank. And in the drunk tank, I was thinking on the floor, that's not what I had in plan this morning when I started drinking. That wasn't my plan at all. And it happened again. And that was like December 20th of 1997. So Merry Christmas, family. And that's not who I wanted to be. So they cut me loose, and they cut me loose in front of a hospital. At the time they cut you loose in front of a hospital, the sheriff just pulled up to the hospital, and he said, get out. It's like 2:30 in the morning, and it was cold, and I was cold. I was just wearing a pair of shorts, and I'd say a muscle shirt. In my case, it's a tank top. But I was so cold that I couldn't feel my skin, and I'd never been that cold. And if you had gone up to me and said, you got to stop drinking because alcohol caused this, I wouldn't believe you. I don't believe you because alcohol is my solution. It's not my problem. If I drink around you, it might be your problem, but it ain't my problem. And so I walked down the street, and I hitched a ride back to the job site, and I slept that night covered by cardboard in a shower stall. And that's not who I wanted to be. But that's what happens when I drink. And that's just part of the cost of having fun. And that's the price that I'm willing to pay, but not forever. I drank and drove for 40 days straight after that. And on the 40th day at night, I went to this place that I kept vacant. When life would beat up on me, I would go there, and I would open up the fridge, and I would drink until it was kind of okay. And that night something happened. I was on the floor alone and afraid in the fetal position. And I see a lot of you that have heard this story before, and I'm really amazed that you guys are still here listening to me gab. And I really appreciate it because you're my peeps. I was alone and afraid in the fetal position, and all I said was, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I went to sleep. And I know that I went to sleep. I didn't pass out because I slept for 12 straight hours that night. And that hadn't happened for many months because I would wake up in 2 hours with the cold sweats or the dry heaves. And I would drink a little bit and I would go back to sleep or pass out for another couple of hours, and I'd do it over and over. But that night, that didn't happen. About 9:30 a.m., I woke up and I thought that it was probably a good idea to call the wife and remind her what a neat guy I am in case she forgot overnight. And I called her and I told her that I'm going to Alcoholics Anonymous. And she said, "That's nice." And she rolled her eyes. The rolling of the eyes is something that I can feel over the phone. And I knew you guys existed, but I really wasn't coming to AA. So I called central office. In those days, we had this thing that's called the phone book. We use it like to sit higher and when you drive, and also to find phone numbers. And I called central office, and they told me that there was a meeting like 4 blocks away at 10 o'clock. And I hung the phone up thinking, I'm not going there. And 10 minutes later, I'm walking up the stairs of the Alano Club at 6th and D in Oxnard, California. And that was January 30th of 1998. And I've been sober ever since. And it isn't that I'm anything special. I'm not one of the select few. A few people have spoken from this podium saying we're the lucky ones. God is not that selective. It isn't because I'm super smart or rich or good looking. I mean, I am all those things. Delusional. It's because God's love is non-selective. And He dropped me off basically at Alcoholics Anonymous. And I quickly pointed out that I'm not like you. I don't own a trench coat. I don't drink out of paper sacks. I don't get arrested, well, that many times. The few arrests that I've got are just bad luck. I'm just not like you. I've got businesses, I've got properties, I've got a family when I remember to go home to them. I drove to my first AA meeting, and I saw your bicycles downstairs and your shopping carts. I'm not like you. And I made that same observation that a lot of us make, and we observe the external condition of alcoholism. And that isn't alcoholism. That's just a condition of my alcoholism. It just hadn't taken me there. Because we define alcoholism as reaching my bottom as external conditions. If I'm going to tell you what my bottom was externally, I'm going to say it was 6 months before I came to AA. I had traded a little truck and $80 in cash for a 1972 Ford Courier that didn't have a radio, and the heater coil leaked on the inside of the truck. I didn't get the papers for it, but I didn't care because it had tags. But in my defense, it had a new paint job. I painted it with spray cans. And after I painted it, I thought to myself, maybe I should have masked the windows. And a boss shouldn't be living like this. A boss should not be driving this vehicle. A boss should not be having to be embarrassed in this condition because I'm a pillar of the community. I rub elbows with the mayor of Oxnard. That's before he got arrested for stealing the knives at Sears. True story, that's the people I hang with. I'm just not like you, and I pointed it out because I pointed out the external conditions of alcoholism. But alcoholism is much more than that. Alcoholism is this darkness, this thing that is inside me that makes me afraid, that makes me misunderstood, makes me want to run and makes me want to hide, and makes me want to be with you at the same time, all at once. And sometimes it makes me want to die. Because you guys point out that I drink too much and I cause too much pain to the family members and the friends. And I don't want to be that person. And when that's pointed out, I want to die. I have no purpose here. And all you guys told me about that was just keep coming back. And I wasn't going to keep coming back because I was going to just go away, do my thing. But it started raining every single day. And I was a landscaper. And I couldn't go to work. So I hid out at the Alano Club, and I went to probably 100 meetings in 30 or 35 days. And it bought me enough dry time. But it didn't get me recovery. Because there's a big difference between not drinking and being recovered. If you're non-alcoholic, non-drinking will work for you and you'll be good to go. But if you're an alcoholic like me, the day will come that something will happen that will cause me to obsess about a drink. Somebody will upset me, misunderstand me, yell at me, hurt me, and I will feel really bad and I'll get the obsession to drink. And if I go toe-to-toe with the obsession, I will lose every time. And the program of recovery is to enable me to find a power greater than myself that will solve my problem, and my problem is alcoholism. My problem is my point of view. My problem is that darkness that causes me to act out. And once I act out, I feel bad about it. I don't agree with it. You don't agree with it. And I have to drink. That's what my alcoholism's about. And we have a solution for that. And it's through the process of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, which I assured you didn't have anything for me. There's no fame, no fortune, no money, and that's what drives me. So I thought, but that's not who I am. That's simply what affords my lifestyle. That isn't who I am. I understand that now. I did not understand it then. So I hung around the rooms of AA, and I eventually went to the Buck. A couple months later, I went to the Buck and Wagon Wheel. And I heard this guru talk about recovery, and I told him that I wanted him to be my sponsor. He looked me up and down, and he says, okay, here's my phone number. And I said, but I'm not going to do the steps. And he said, you don't have to. I said, that's what I'm talking about. And he said, but we'll meet at my house every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. for about an hour, and we'll discuss a chapter a week from the book titled Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, I can do that. I'm a smart guy, but I'm not doing the steps. And he said, you don't have to. I know he tricked me. Because in reading the book and discussing a chapter a week and knowing what the book said and talking about it and following those simple directions, I went through the process of recovery. And step 1, 2, and 3, admitting, coming to believe, and making a decision should only take about 15 seconds. Okay, maybe 20 because there's a third step prayer. But if your sponsor has asked you to write a whole dissertation of 50 pages about the second part of step 1, the unmanageability of your life, you go ahead and do it because it worked for him and it might work for you. But I didn't have to do it because that's not what the book says. Admitting, coming to believe, and making a decision are just thoughts. But when I made a decision on step 3, when I made a decision to turn my will, which is my thoughts, and my life, which is my actions, to the care of God, which I did not understand, there was a negative promise right after that. Because the book is full of positive promises, but it also has some warnings and negative promises. And it says about step 3, though it was a crucial and vital step, it would have little permanent effect unless at once followed with vigorous action. The first, which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us have not attempted. And this is where we lose a lot of people that come to Alcoholics Anonymous because they get somewhere between step 3 and 4 and they think that it's about the not drinking, and it is, but there's more. It's about living a different way and finding out how to achieve that, but they don't wait around long enough to figure that out. So they think, I got it, just not drink so much. See you later. I will drink with caution. In fact, there was this young man in Bakersfield. I remember going to a meeting because wherever I go to meetings. And he said, you know, this AA stuff really works. I got my family back. I got a new truck. I got my job back. Got a nice house. This is the best 13 days of my life. And that's the last we saw of him. Most alcoholics will die as a result of alcoholism. 3 to 5% of the people that come to AA, depending on who you speak to, will say that 3 to 5% will achieve 2 years sobriety and the rest will not. But it's not necessary because there is a program that works 100% for 100% of the people. But most of the people see the inventory as a fearful and immoral inventory, and that's not what it says. It says, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. It's not about all the criminality that I did through the years and how I hurt them. And in fact, it's totally the opposite. It's taking their inventory, who I'm resentful at, what they did, and what it affected. Dad moved away when I was 8 years old, and it rocked my world. It affected everything, my existence. It gave me abandonment issues. It gave me fear. I felt cheated, less than. I just felt different. And then so on and so forth with the list. And step 5 is admitted to to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 5 is where I take this list, this list of resentments, which are really easy to do once I start my resentment list, because that's what I've been doing all my life anyway. I mean, you might think that I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drinker, but in all reality, I'm a scorekeeper. You know, I keep score. If you hurt my feelings, you gotta pay. If you don't mean to hurt my feelings, you still gotta pay. Because I'm the one that's keeping score. And when you're almost even, I change the rules. Because I'm still hurt. And I take this list to my sponsor with my dad, my wife, and the kids, Judge Myra down in Malibu, the IRS, Ventura County. And he says, okay, let's find out, because we don't talk too much about this. Let's find out what your part in it is, the magic fourth column that we don't really talk too much about in AA. What's your part? And my part is easy. I'm a victim. Victim, 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 victim. And he says, let's take one at a time. Your dad, he moved away when I was 8 years old. I'm a victim. He said, how long ago was this? Not that long ago, 35, 40 years. And he said, you might want to stop acting as if it was happening right now. Am I doing that? I guess I am. I'm hating him like it was happening right now. And step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. I hear it once every couple of weeks now. It used to be real frequent in meetings. I'm working on my character defects. If you have that kind of power, please see me after the meeting. I want what you got. Because no human power can relieve me of my alcoholism. Step 6, you do like this. I'm ready. Became entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7 is humbly ask Him to remove these shortcomings. If I'm serious about it, He will remove them. If I'm not serious about it, when I hold on to it, He's not going to fight me for them. He's going to let me get all the mileage that I need to get out of them until that hurts more than letting go. Step 8 is made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And the book says we began this list when we made our inventory. So everybody from the resentment list automatically defaults to the amends list. I wish I had known that sooner. Because my list would have been a lot shorter, then I wouldn't have to make so many amends. And I said, Dad, I'm going to hate him forever, and I'm good with that. Let's go on to the next one. And he said, no. My sponsor said, no, here's what you're going to do. You're going to call him once a week. You're going to send him cards and holidays. And I said, I'm not going to do that. Didn't you hear what I just said? I hate him. I will always hate him. And he said, you can do this. Because, see, he hated me to the point, when I was in high school, I played basketball. And yeah, it was a short team. And we always lost, and I would come home and he'd say, how'd you do? I said, we lost. And he would say, I told you you were a loser. But one time, one day, I scored 16 points one night and we won by 1 point. And I ran home with the good news. And I told him, "Hey, Dad, we won." He goes, "No, no, no. You finally found some bigger losers than you." A little bit later on, he decided to make an announcement when we were having a family gathering. And he said that I'm the only one of his kids that didn't amount to nothing. And in my defense, I said, "But Dad, I've got these properties, I got the businesses, and I've got a motorhome, I got this." And he said, took the same finger and said, "No, no, you're the only one of my kids that didn't amount to nothing." How could a person like me, a sensitive person like me, stay sober under those conditions? Gone unresolved? There's no way. No way. And so I start calling him once a week, and he'd said, "What do you want? Just call to say hi." And he said, "Talk to your mother. I'm good with that. I don't want to talk to you anyway." Week after week after week after week, and eventually we started talking about the weather a little bit, and 9 months later, I visited him. I was leaving his driveway, and I'm walking down at the end of the driveway. I turned around, and for no good reason, I told him I loved him. And he goes, "Really?" I was as surprised as he was. And I said, "Yeah, really," but I got freaked out and I left. And a couple years later, he saw me in the main aisle of Home Depot. And he was so happy to see me that he hugged me in public. And he realized we were in public, and he dropped his hands, but by then I had him. No human power could have caused that to happen. See, my alcoholism requires that I behave in such a way that I don't give him a chance to love me. And the macho and the pride were keeping both of us from loving each other. A few years later, my sister got cancer, and she was in the hospital, and I was really pissed off at God. And I went to visit her, and I told God, I thought we were walking hand in hand. I thought you loved me. What's going on? Why are you doing this to me? And a little voice in the back of my head said, "You? It's your sister that's dying. Go hold her hand." And I went and held her hand, and I was good with God. And a couple years later, my dad got cancer also, and it was terminal. And a couple of days before he died, he was in bed at home. And he said, "Come here." And I said, "Yeah, Dad?" And he said, "The whole family's crazy." And I said, "I know, Dad." And he said, "Except for you." I would have never expected him to ever say that. And no human power could have caused him to say that. Because where we come from, in our behavior, in our stubborn ways, without God, there's no way that we could get together to love each other. So I had like 11 and a half years, maybe 12 good years with him. as a result of what you guys taught me. Because when I did the inventory process, I found out that I'm the cause of most of the problems. If I'm not the cause of the problems, I perpetuate them to the point that I make them a real big problem for everybody around me. And then I have to drink over it. That's why alcohol becomes my solution and not my problem. If you're new or fairly new, I hope that you're alcoholic enough to stay. And we can't declare that for you. We read it almost every day in almost every meeting. We had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholic. This is the first step in recovery. If you're not an alcoholic, it's Saturday night, you're wasting a lot of good drinking time. If you're not an alcoholic, I'm going to warn you right now, alcoholism is a highly contagious disease. I caught it here in the rooms of AA. But once I caught it, then the solution applied. And the solution was not to not drink. The solution was not to do those things that caused me anguish and discomfort enough to have to drink. That was the solution, but I could never get there. I could never get there because I'm stuck on the past. I could never get there because I'm stuck on the resentments. I'm stuck on not forgiving you, because if I forgive you, then I can't mistreat you. And mistreating you gives me power, but it also hurts me. It also makes me uncomfortable and eventually makes me drink. So I have to forgive you. And I didn't know that. And the whole process is to get me to think differently and hopefully act differently and be comfortable enough to not have to drink. Because once I found a power greater than myself, then I have to lean on that power. And I lean on that power every day. Step 10 says, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. It says, when we were wrong, we will be wrong, not if we were wrong. Step 10 is like a regular inventory from step 4. And step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscience contact with God as I understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. What do you want me to do? And give me the strength to do it. I have found that if I take care of God's kids, God's got my drink problem. I have found that if I love God's kids, God loves me. That's the way it works. So that's all I got to do, find out what God wants me to do with His kids and give me the strength to do it. Step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. The message of AA is simple. AA works. This message of AA is really simple. We carry the same message that those people that knock on our doors Saturday mornings. We have some great news. And most of us say, forget it. I used to say, I'm a devil worshiper, go away. And they did go away, but one day they came in and they knocked on my door and they said, we've got some great news. And nobody ever lets them in, so I let them in and they look at each other, they come in. I said, what's the great news? And they look at each other, they look around. They said, "We don't know. We've never made it this far before." But they carry the same great news that we carry in AA. And the message I want to leave you tonight is, God loves you. Don't forget it. Thank you for letting me share.
Let's thank Manny again.